Welcome, Alpha Amelia, to today's episode of Alpha Live. My name is Yasmin Rivera, Diversity Pipeline Lead at Nationwide and the Director of Corporate Affairs for Alpha Phoenix. Today's episode is sponsored by Bank of America. Now, before we dive into our discussion, let's learn a little bit about Bank of America's Back to Work program. Let's watch the following video.
Our people are difference makers. The first ones to not only show up, but speak up. Here, that's the bar. We rely on those voices, the voices of people invested in advancing racial equality and economic opportunity. Because we know to truly move toward progress, we need more of that. We need you. So yeah, we're asking you to show up. The artsy friend, the budding activist, the favorite aunt, the not-so-secret hobbyist, your whole self. And with our careers in finance, technology, business, and so many other areas, you will find a place where every part of you will thrive. This is a call to join our team, to be the one voice that can strengthen our many, and together, the ones to enact change. So bring it. Bring you.
Thank you so much, Bank of America, for your continued partnership with Alpha. Your partnership has produced such dividends and resources for our greater community, and we look forward to continuing to work together and make a real difference. Today, we're going to discuss a few topics that have impacted all of us. What have we learned about the trend in resignation? How are employers responding? What do potential job seekers really want from an employer? And what do they need to think as they return to work? How to be clear on your career goals, and so much more. Before we get into the panel, let's learn a little bit about our special guests and watch this video. Awesome. Please be sure to ask questions in the chat, as we will reserve some time towards the end of the episode to answer as many questions as we can. Amazing. Thank you to our panelists, Luz, Lynn, and Danielle, for being here and joining us today. Let's kick off our panel and start with Lynn. Lynn, we're now 2 years into the pandemic, and we are experiencing the Great Resignation. What have we learned about this trend in the marketplace, and how is Bank of America responding?
No, Yasmin, great question. You know, when we think about the trends for the last two, now going into the third year, we've asked and seen that people are really reassessing what's important to them. And we all should do that no matter what is before us. We should really understand what you need to focus on, how you need to move through. And, you know, what we heard and used to hear all the time was work-life balance, which always made us think that we were going to drop something. But it really is work-life integration. What are you going to do, or what do you do within the 24 hours of your day? So we're really hoping, and we've seen that people have begun to really reassess what was important to them. Our leaders started a series and continued the series called Courageous Conversations, where we had thought leaders coming and talking to teammates and really trying to pull out their authentic selves. You know, lead with grace, really be empathetic, and help people focus on their purpose. That was important during this time. Again, reconnecting with people, making sure that we re-engaged, reconnected, and re-recruited our teammates. It was really important for those managers and leaders to connect again with our teammates. They're looking to connect on a different level. It's really understanding what your purpose is, how you align to what the bank strategies are internally and externally. We have great external partnerships and external presence with different partnerships that we have, and I'll go into that in a little bit. But as we think about it, every area within the bank was really focused on our associates. Our HR teammates, our talent teammates are focused on pipeline management, and again, succession planning. which is important. So how do you align what individuals are thinking about with the bank strategy? And when we see that they meet, there's definitely a win on both sides. We think about responsible growth, and individuals that are returning to work should really assess what are their values, what do they want to see in a company that they're aligning with, and does that company also have a footprint in when we think about climate change, when we think about some of the social issues that are out? What is your company and that you want to connect with? What are they doing? And so it's just a different way to really understand it. So as I said, connection is important, and we're looking for women specifically to come in with a different level of influence as we move forward and think strategically.
Amazing. Yeah, that is really impactful, especially targeting women, because we were the, primarily demographic affected during the pandemic. So this is so important. And thank you so much, Lynn. Danielle, in your work supporting the greater Latinx community at Bank of America, what do you think potential job seekers really want from an employer as they return to work?
Thank you for that question, Yasmin. And buenas noches, good evening, everyone. It's really a pleasure to be here. I'd say people are really looking for so much more than just a competitive salary and healthcare and retirement benefits. They're really looking for a company that sees them truly as a person, that allows them to bring their whole selves to work. And that's not just a company that's serving their shareholders and clients, but also really focused on the employees and the communities that these employees live in. So I feel like job seekers are looking to work in a company that cares about their employees and their well-being, that acknowledges that a person has many roles in their life. We're not just employees or robots. We're caregivers, we're active members in our communities. We have different commitments. We have different interests and passions outside of work. And I think Lynn was speaking a little bit to this. On a personal level, I can share that at the start of the pandemic, I think this is where it was one of those moments of truth where you see companies that really are being a differentiator in the market, that are doing something that goes beyond to what a company should be doing and really focusing on their employees. I, as any other parent and caregiver, was struggling with so many things, including remote learning, just pandemic anxiety in general, but also childcare. That was a huge issue. And that's when I saw how Bank of America stepped in and really helped me, solve for that issue and provide childcare benefits that allowed me to hire someone that I trusted in a time of crisis, as well as all the information and efforts that they put out to ensure that the employees were safe. So I think employees are looking for so much more than just a competitive salary and benefits. Another great example is, being supported through your time, through different stages in your life. We at the bank have a life event services team that is really basically an HR specialized team, helping associates navigate everyday challenges that they might be facing in their lives, whether it's a child with special needs, or it's whether you're a person that are struggling to come out as your true authentic self, as a different gender, whether there's been a natural disaster and you're suddenly struggling, maybe you had a fire, maybe something happened in your home and you need help. We have people and teams that are focused on ensuring that you are as well as you can be to do the job that you need to do. So these are just a couple of examples of the benefits that we provide and that I feel job seekers are looking for today to be able to go back into the workplace.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think the pandemic definitely highlighted those things that are important to people beyond just a competitive salary, right? So for professionals looking to re-enter the workforce, what does a professional career look like at Bank of America, and how does Bank of America support those employees, joining the bank? Danielle.
So Bank of America really supports employees through the entire life cycle at the company. And of course, it starts with hiring and onboarding. There are really specific job-related programs and processes, tools, as well as systems and coaching that help the new hire come up to speed. New teammates get a chance not just to interact with their immediate team, but also with teammates in their broader market, as well as cross-functional with employees in other lines of business. We really foster a culture of openness where new employees can reach out and connect with others, not just at their level, but also at more senior levels and seek that guidance. We also have an internal academy that helps employees be successful through all their onboarding. There's a series of training opportunities. There's a lot out there on career development. The academy really invests in each person to make sure that they're moving forward in their career. And it doesn't really matter where you are in your career. At Bank of America, there's just so much opportunity to explore different career paths. And I think as people return to work, they're looking for that too. You don't want to do the same job for 2 years. You want to be able to move around, increase your learning, increase your earning potential. Another thing that I like to highlight in terms of what people are looking for when they come back and what they can expect to improve their onboarding is joining one of our employee networks. And employee networks, I think in other places, we call them employee resource groups, but it's a series of networks across the bank. We have 11 of them with over 350 chapters around the world, over 200,000 members. And really, it ties employees to their local markets, to their communities. It helps advance our diversity and inclusion efforts. And they cover a series of diverse affinities and interests that employees have. A good example of that is our Hispanic Latino network. It's called HOLA. It's open to everyone, but of course, a good portion of our employees that join this network are Hispanic Latino. And there's over 39 chapters across the US with over 17,000 members. So these are just a couple of things you can expect in terms of an onboarding experience and as we welcome employees into our company.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that answer, Danielle. So pivoting gears more towards women, Lynn, I'm really curious, what's Bank of America's overall strategy with regard to investing in women? And what are you especially proud of in regards to BofA's overall strategy?
No, great question, Yasmin. So when you think about Bank of America, we focus, especially being in the global women's role, we focus on growing, retaining, educating, advancing, training, and continuing to make sure that all women are in influential roles and really identify and work through their purpose, what they're interested in working at Bank of America. Just to, when you think about it, we are a diverse and a large company, global company. So individuals have the opportunity to move around the company, do different, work in different lines of business, but also in different geographies if they're able. Again, where there's a need, we have that opportunity. As we think about investing in women, it's not only internally in the company, but it's externally. We have an Investing in Women's Council that two of Brian Moynihan's direct reports actually sit on the council, so you can see how important women are to the bank and to the strategy. So we think about that as well. It's evidenced by all the resources that Danielle shared, and just for all teammates, but women specifically, we have specific initiatives directed towards women. I lead a Women Ready to Lead series where back to the global, to the local markets, it's localized, but we identify ways that the individuals can connect with our clients and communities and really drive what the bank is doing. They then morph to our alumni series, and we look for sustainment activities to make sure that you don't just go through the program once, but you're continually touched, that you're continually shared with the important resources, whether it's a learning opportunity or engaging in an event, whatever it may be. We look for ways to truly connect with women. As we think about a little bit, and I'll just give you some stats here, 38% of our board of directors are women. That's huge. That usually is what individuals ask, say, okay, who's leading the company? Who has the oversight of the company? And to know that women, we've got 38%, that's huge. 32% of our management team is women. Again, Brian Moynihan directs when you think about it. We have 50% of women in our global workforce and 42% of the top levels of the company. And we've seen a 28% increase in management levels. We call them 1 through 3 since 2015. So it's not just a focus and then we're done. It's a consistent, steady engagement to make sure that we're meeting and even exceeding some of the goals that we've set as a company. Just to talk a little bit about, and I know Luz will come in and talk a little bit about kind of recruiting, but our summer intern class for 2021, 46% were women. So again, we've got a strong track record in engaging with our women. In 2021, 45% of our campus hires were women. And again, just to reinforce all the practices. But I think one thing I'm definitely proud of as we think about it, we've got, as Danielle mentioned, our OLA employee network. We have a LEAD employee network. It's Leadership, Education, Advocacy, and Development. 37,000 members. And most of them are women. We do have some men that are part of them as well, because again, we want to spread the wealth. But we think about that. It's impacting 64 global chapters are part of that. And then 75,000 women entrepreneurs were awarded and advanced their business by engaging with us from an external perspective through partnerships like Kiva, Vital Voices, Cherie Blair Foundation, Tory Burch Foundation, even Cornell University. We are looking to truly engage and launch, where we haven't been before. And in 2021, we actually launched the Access to Capital Directory, which is helping women have access to capital that normally would not have access to it. So again, we want to be the employer of choice. And so it's not just our motto internally, but it's also what we're showing in our footprint externally.
That's amazing. Representation, resources, and connections really make all the difference. And so that is so important that it's impacting and truly a mission and initiative at Bank of America. So I have a question for the entire group. Making strong connections with future employers is critical in landing the next opportunity. How do you tell your story in a way that helps differentiate you from other job seekers, especially those that may not have had a career in banking before?
That's actually a great question. I mean, with any search, I think it's critical that you have an updated resume, and you want to make sure that you have your complete work history, but also include skills and experience that you acquired during that career break that can really transfer to that job that you're looking to apply for, and just really portray you as a kind of really well-rounded person. I think companies are looking for that more than ever. And you really want to highlight any type of experience that you gained outside of corporate America, whether it was positions that you were serving on some sort of local board or committees or volunteering or other types of community service. So that's one tip I would provide.
No, I agree. When we think about it, leadership skills are transferable and very important. So no matter what role you take, whether you're an individual contributor or a manager, you're going to be in some type of leadership opportunity. So demonstrating that you've got leadership and that you've actually been able to tell the story. I love individuals who are energetic during their interview, and not that they're sitting back and waiting to get something from me, but they really demonstrate an interest in understanding the bank's history, understanding a little bit more than coming to hear from me to give them why they should think about Bank of America. I really want to understand how they see themselves as a Bank of America teammate based on the research that they've done. So being intellectually curious is very important to me when I interview prospective teammates.
And I just kind of want to jump in here and talk, just to tie a little bit of some of the points that Danielle and Lynn have made. I think it's really important that you kind of look at the gap from the perspective of this was still an enriching experience, something, that is, as Danielle mentioned, rounding you out, right? So if it's something that you've acquired, there's always a way to present it in a way that you're talking about the transferable skills that you would need in a role, right? And that doesn't necessarily have to be in an official capacity, right? There's a lot of things that we do in our day-to-day that could apply, right? Things around time management, scheduling, budgeting, all of those things are important, and I'm sure that they'll come into play at some point in your professional career as well. So as you're thinking about, you may be thinking these aren't things that employers want to hear about, but it's all about how you present the information, right? If you're thinking about it from a perspective of this is how it's enriched my professional capabilities, and you're able to present that with confidence in an interview, it doesn't matter in what capacity you were actually gaining the skills. The fact that you were able to connect those dots and present it in a passionate, cohesive way that really knows who they are and what they bring to the table. I want to know more about this person.
Amazing. And just to kind of circle back on that, what is the best way to apply for a job at Bank of America? And what's different about applying for a development program versus an open job?
So the best way to apply for a role is always to go to our career site, right? careers.bankofamerica.com. And you'll find every role that's open there. So that's always the best way to apply for a job. What's the difference between applying for an open role and applying for a program, especially the one that we're going to talk about today? The program will offer a more tailored approach, right? Specifically as it pertains to this Back to Work initiative, we know that there are things that this particular group is going to need help with as they're reintegrating back into the workforce. Danielle mentioned earlier some of the great benefits that the bank has available to you in terms of, child care, dependent care. I know that those are concerns for people that have taken a step back, have taken those responsibilities on, right? And now they're kind of, coming back and trying to figure out, okay, if I'm not doing this, how am I going to get this done? So there's a lot more of a focus on what do you need, right? This to transition, right? Because it is a transition. You're not just changing from one role, from one job to the next. You're completely restructuring, your world. So in terms of this program, obviously, the approach will be more tailored to training within that particular line of business, right? So we'll be a lot more aligned. And when you're, coming into a regular role, don't despair. Danielle mentioned earlier all of the support that we have for regular employees coming to join the bank, right? Lynn as well. You still qualify for all of our development programs. You still have access to our learning hub, so that you can, enrich your professional capabilities on your time. So there are still tons of resources, but the real difference is kind of like that
Awesome. And then Luz, can we elaborate a little bit more about that program for Alpha Amelia and just kind of dive in full circle, right? What is...
I thought you would never ask.
Yeah, what is Enterprise Credit Returnship Program? What does it mean? What are the skills required to apply? What does the typical career path look like? And then if people don't have experience, right? Have you hired people without experience before? If you have, what do those candidates typically share? If we could just elaborate, and then on timeline as well.
Absolutely. I'm going to try to remember all of the questions that you just asked. So before I jump into the program, I just want to kind of take a little bit of a step back and give this group some context as to how did we get here to this particular effort. Returning talent has always been a focus for us. There was a routine that the bank had prior, but it wasn't a full-scale program. It was really a day or a day and a half of workshops. We would invite select individuals to come to the bank, have access to training, coaching, how to write your resume, how to interview successfully. We would have them socialize with our talent acquisition team as well as our business leaders, and hope, right, that through all of this interaction and all of this enrichment, we would hire people out of this cohort. It's very difficult for a candidate that has been out of work to compete with a candidate who is currently doing this job at a competitor, or even an internal candidate who may not be a perfect fit, but has demonstrated their performance, over their tenure at the bank, right? There's a lot more confidence in the fact that that person is going to be able to get through the learning curve. So, as we were at the end of last year, things seem to be going well. We're all returning to the office. We said, let's dust off this, back to work initiative and see if we can't make this something that's a little bit more impactful, right? And so that's kind of how we ended up with this back to work program. It is the first time that we're doing something like this, so always, very exciting. And centralized commercial credit, which is part of our enterprise credit organization, is the business that is sponsoring this very first cohort for our Back to Work program. So centralized credit is the team that handles all of the credit underwriting for our commercial clients with total risk exposure of up to $5 million. They also monitor all of the loan activity for all of the commercial deals in the bank. So they're not underwriting all of the deals, but they're getting access to all of that information. So on a day-to-day basis, this team is responsible for vetting the deals, right? Our relationship managers come to them and say, hey, this is my client. They want a loan for X, Y, and Z reason. And this team is responsible for, doing the financial vetting of this, financial statement spreading, doing cash flow statement analysis, doing industry analysis and market analysis, and just, putting a comprehensive packet together that helps us then make, sound credit decisions, right? And, that team will say, hey, we've run the numbers on this, we've done all the research, and this is how much we think you should lend this client. These are the terms that we should lend this money under, right? And then we go ahead and close the deal, right? If the relationship manager is successful in kind of selling our points. So, the good thing about this team is that it's not industry specific or function specific. So as part of this team, you will get exposure to a ton of different industries across the commercial lending space. And then, as far as a career path, there's so many ways that you can go. You can grow up, right? If your desire is you want to manage people in this space, there's the opportunity for you to do that. If you decide, hey, I love credit, but I want to see what else is out there for me in this very large, amazing organization, having started in credit is actually an advantage. Having knowledge of credit is applicable to a ton of different roles across the bank. It's an asset if you're a relationship manager, is an asset if you're in treasury services, is an asset if you're in wealth management and investment solutions. Everywhere you go, this particular background is going to serve you well. So it's really just a great place to start in getting here to the bank.
It sounds like an amazing opportunity. ALPFA, you have to do some more research and tune in. And Luz, can you share with us, what is the timeline for hiring and applications for this program?
So applications are live. Definitely encourage you to go to our career site and find the posting. It says Bank of America Back to Work, so you'll be able to identify it. It's the only rec of its kind. Applications close on March 13th, so be sure to get your application in before then. And then, once applications close, we will invite all of our successful candidates that we've been screening throughout this time for a super day. Offers are time to go out in April, and then the program will start in May. So that is the general timeline for this.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Luz. And I have a question for the general group. And ALPFA, if you're listening, please be sure to add your comments or your questions into the comments wherever you're streaming in on, and we can get those answered after our last question. So for everyone, while you may not have personally taken a break from work, I'm sure that as HR practitioners, right, you know what it takes for someone to be successful into a corporate role. So what's the secret for success? What do you look for when hiring those candidates?
Who wants to go first?
Okay, I'll start. That's fine. Again, I mentioned someone who's confident and competent, and that they can quickly share that through their story, that they can thread the needle to really talk about what they've done, what they've learned over time, and how they've applied it. I really like to see that someone, again, has been intellectually curious, that they're able to understand how they've put A to B to C in, even if they stepped away or not, but they're still being able to tell their story and to be very confident in telling it. Be authentic. I look for someone who is authentic, that can, again, and one thing to see someone on paper and you read a resume, but then when you're sitting there with people or on a screen like we're on today, just again, making sure that people show their authentic selves and it comes through really clear.
Wonderful.
Danielle, you want to go next?
I think Lynn, really summed it up well. It's really, and it really depends on the role as well. So you want to highlight the skill sets for the role that you're applying. So make sure you make that connection. Sometimes you might be applying for slightly different roles. You want to make sure that your resume and your story match the skill sets of what you're applying for. So that's another recommendation.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to, if we can expand a little bit on that, right, in terms of what's the secret for success, right? So you've interviewed, you've shown your confidence, right? You've shown those transferable skills. Now you have to perform, right? And that can be daunting, especially if you've been out of the workforce for a while. You're probably like, "Ooh, they gave me this chance. I have to, come to the table correct, right? I have to show up." It's okay to be scared and to be, feel a little bit uncomfortable initially. That's going to happen. And you just need to be comfortable with the fact that that is going to happen. Just admit it to yourself and, you'll be okay, because you should have confidence in your abilities. Particularly for this program, we know that you're coming back to work. This is why we've, packed the program with some of those helpful tools and resources for you to be successful. We're invested in your success as we're hiring you for this. So just think about that. You made it, right? You made it through the interview process. You're here, you got the offer. So you definitely have something to offer the bank, and you can add value. So, kind of lean back on that as you're working through some of that discomfort. Be flexible, be adaptable, and open to feedback. Feedback is really how you grow. And don't ever be shy to ask questions or, to tap somebody for support. We're a very, very collaborative environment here at the bank. We are all invested in all of our success. So.
Amazing. Yeah, so I'll take our first question from the audience here, and it comes from Laura Garcia. How do you as a professional engage in the community and actually participate in it? And I guess we can start with Danielle.
Sure, that's a great question. Thank you, Laura. I think the bank really offers ample opportunity to really be invested in our community. So we may be a global company, right? But we have, in the US, we operate through our 91 local markets. So a lot of the activity and a lot of the, reinvestment in communities that we do is through these local markets. And what that entails is we have partnerships with local nonprofits and governments to ensure that we are part of that community, that we are reinvesting dollars in our community, and then our employees get to connect with those organizations and with everything that they're doing by volunteering their time. We also have matching gifts. If you're very passionate about a particular organization at the local or national level, you do your donation, and we have a great matching gift program. So really the local markets are kind of the heart of a company. That's where everything happens. So we are global, but from a community perspective, everything goes through our local markets. And in your particular market, you can make a difference and be a participant of that change.
But also realize, and most people didn't think this, when you volunteer for your church, when you just do things that are very local to your life, that is all part of you giving back to the community. And you may use your professional skills in engaging in that space. So again, really think differently about how you engage locally. I think that's important.
And to add to Lynn's comment, we encourage our employees to volunteer. Depending on your role, you will be given a couple hours every month or every quarter to volunteer for the organization that you're passionate about. And that's something that you can discuss with your manager.
Absolutely. And Danielle, you talked about our employee networks earlier at the top of the live. They also provide opportunities for you to engage in the community. That's actually one of the core pillars of our employee networks, is community engagement and community development. So as chair of the OLA New York chapter for the last 3 years, I've been able to, stand up several volunteer events. During the pandemic, we had food drives. We had phone banks, just to talk to people that were, anxious and stuck at home, had nobody to talk to. There's so many ways here at the bank, thankfully, that you can make a difference. And they recognize that as, somebody who's showing up, their full selves and really making the organization better.
Amazing. Thank you, ladies. So our next question comes from Jay Santana from the Phoenix chapter. Angela Salazar from the Phoenix chapter. And she wants to know, you kind of touched on this, but what are some common mistakes you see people returning to the workforce make during the application and interview process?
I'm happy to take this one. So, one of the things that a lot of people do when they're showing up and they're feeling a little bit insecure about the fact that they've been out of work, et cetera, is they start to minimize their experience, right? It's like, I've just done this, I've just done that. And what that does is really confirm the interviewer's assumptions about, your profile, right? It's like, oh, well, this person actually has been out of work. They might have a really long learning curve. This is not somebody that I want to engage with. But I think you really need to remember that, the fact that you have a gap doesn't make all of the rest of your experience disappear, right? You have had professional experience before, and you need to play to that. Really think about what were some of the ways that you were adding value before you left the workforce. What were some of your achievements? And the more that you can elaborate on what you were doing in a professional capacity, the more confidence the interviewer is going to have on your level of expertise and the fact that you are going to be able to come in and kind of plug and play, the way we say. So, think about that rather than thinking about the gap. Think about all the things that you're bringing to the table. And once you're in the middle of that conversation and really demonstrating how you can add value, the gap kind of goes away, right? Because now I'm focused on, well, this individual seems really capable, and and I want to learn more, and I want to know how they would tackle a specific situation, etc. So showing up knowing that you're adding value is really the key.
Amazing. Yeah. And something I want to add to that for all of our Alpha Amelia members listening in, a lot of you spend your time volunteering on our boards. That is leadership experience. You guys go above and beyond for your communities. You go above and beyond to give back to Alpha. So make sure you're highlighting that. Make sure you're including that in your interviews and your resume. And when talking to amazing HR practitioners like you are on this call, right? Make sure to leave your questions in. And we have one more question from the audience. This one comes from Jay Santana. How long is too long to be out of work to be considered an attractive candidate? And if your career break was for entrepreneurial or educational pursuits, how do you present that? And we can kick it off to Lynn.
Hi, yeah, Jay, thanks for the question. And so no amount of time is too long. I think Luz will share that the minimum that you have to be out of work to apply for the return to work program is 1 year, but I'll defer to Luz on that. Yep, 1 year. So no time is too long. And we're really looking again to engage and make sure that you know what you're looking to do. You've got your plan in place, you know what you're thinking and you want to learn. So as we move forward, and you've got the little banner at the bottom, as you move forward and you think about, well, what did I do during this time? Why did I step away? Starting your own business and being an entrepreneur, that's not a break in a gap. It's a break in being in the corporate environment, but it's not a break in your work experiences. So that should be just right at the top of what you've done in the last 3 to 5 to 6 to 7 years, whatever it may be. Even if you've gone back to school, you'll have that at the bottom. You can state that broke from corporate America during this period, but then for the last 3 or 4 years or 2 pursued a degree in X area. So it's a really easy way to define and explain what you've done while stepping away from corporate America.
Yeah, and in terms of, first, just want to confirm, yes, in order to qualify for the program, you need to have been fully out of the workforce for just 1 year, at least 1 year, but no time is too long. We'll consider every applicant. But to Lynn's point about going back to school, some people think that's not professional experience. Yes, I can put that I went to, get my MBA, but how can I leverage that further? If you're getting your MBA, I'm sure you're working on projects, whether that be research or group projects. You can lift, 1 or 2 that were, particular highlights for you, and put that on the resume. Talk about the things that you did. What were the skills that you applied and gained through that process? That'll be helpful as well in terms of rounding out your profile.
Wonderful. Yeah, I don't believe we have any more questions, and we are right at time. So I just want to take a minute and just say what an amazing discussion. Thank you so much to all of the powerful Latinas from Bank of America who joined us today for this candid and impactful conversation. So remember, if you are interested in applying to the Back of Work program at Bank of America. Check out their career site and check out the link to learn a little bit more. Be sure to apply by March 13th and stay connected. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining in.
Thank you for having us.
Buenas noches.
Bye. Thank
Good
you.
night. Thank you.